Sleep. Sleep resets neurons to keep learning possible. Sleep resets neurons, keep learning possible. This is a neuroscience news reading for World Reading Club from neurosciencenews.com is the reading source for the podcast World Reading Club on Spreaker, which can also be found on worldreadingclub.com. And I'm also currently reading this right now through Noom Vibe, the Noom Vibe app. And this article titled Sleep Resets Neurons to Keep Learning Possible was published under the categories of Featured and Neuroscience on neurosciencenews.com on August 16th, 2024. Summary. During sleep, the brain resets memory by silencing specific neurons in the hippocampus, allowing for continuous learning without overloading. This process, crucial for memory consolidation, involves different regions of the hippocampus, particularly CA2, which helps reset memory circuits. All right, so right off the beginning here, something that I already know. Hold on, why is this connected to the? I gotta hold on, I'm gonna disconnect my device from Bluetooth here. Hopefully that sound changed a little bit. That should be better. Okay, so that is, I think I had to change my microphone. Well, so automatically right here, from just that summary that I read, reminds me of a book that I've read twice already by Dr. Matthew Walker called Why We Sleep. And a lot of this research is already covered. So this article was published on August 16th. This is a cold reading. I haven't read this before, but just from that summary, I've already been made aware of this kind of research and this understanding that sleep um, helps in learning. But let's see some more about what this says. So that was the summary. Continuing, key facts, and it is early in the morning. So hello Zita for chiming in. It's early in the morning here on the east coast of the United States. Key facts: memory consolidation happens during sleep with specific neurons resetting. Point: the hippocampus's CA2 region plays a key role in silencing neurons for reset. Point: this mechanism could be targeted to enhance memory or erase traumatic memories. All right, now that again right there is something that I don't know why it was alarming to me when I first learned about this thing in this third point in the key facts. But so what am I talking about there? So the third point in the key facts here says this mechanism could be targeted to enhance memory or erase traumatic memories. Yes, that's right. If you ever seen that movie, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, where you go in and erase traumatic memories, well, this is a possible. This is something that has been. I read about this a while back, right here from neurosciencenews.com, about being able to target and even erase or lessen the intensity of traumatic memories. So, and it involved different types of mapping of the brain and things like that. It's incredible. I forget what it's called right now, but it was like targeted memory. I don't remember. I read it. I'll have to go dig through my other podcasts and find it, but it's quite interesting that erase traumatic memories. Because I remember that what it had to do with was bringing them up, finding it, and then they were able to completely knock it out. So I mean that I don't know if I'm concerned about it. It's just alarming, maybe because I'm excited about stuff that seemed to be in science fiction before, but now it's science. Okay, continuing. Neurosciencenews.com, the article. The source is from Cornell University. While everyone knows that a good night's sleep restores energy, a new Cornell University study finds it resets another vital function, memory. So when they're saying a new Cornell University study, maybe it's new to Cornell University, but as I was saying before, I had read this in Matthew Walker's book, and his book is not that new. I mean, it's not old. Let me take a look. I'm gonna ask Google. Matthew Walker's Why We Sleep. What year was it published? Okay, so let's see.
According to Wikipedia, Why We Sleep, The New Science of Sleep and Dreams is a 2017 popular science book about sleep written by Matthew Walker, an English scientist and the director of the Center for Human Sleep Science at the University of California, Berkeley, who specializes in neuroscience and psychology.
All right, well, I don't know if you heard that from the AI, but Wikipedia says Why We Sleep, the science of the new science of sleep and dreams, or simply known as Why We Sleep, is a 2017 popular science book about sleep written by Matthew Walker, an English scientist and the director of the Center for Human Sleep Science at the University of California, Berkeley, who specializes in neuroscience and psychology. In the book, Walker discusses about the importance of sleeping, the side effects of failing to do so, and its impacts on society. Okay, so 2017, so 7 years ago, the book was published. I actually do remember I saw he was interviewed he was a guest on Star Talk with Neil deGrasse Tyson. And also interesting too, a lot of the books that I've read, I found that Neil deGrasse Tyson has already come across these people. Like I read the Black Hole Survival Guide by Jana Levin, which I have here, is a nice little pocket book, and she was on there too, and she's a regular with him. It's really cool to see. Anyway, I guess in popular science and with science communicators, they all kind of run in the same circles. Like Brian Greene, who I first came across back in the late 90s, early 2000s, from being introduced to him by my friend Kevin Green. Interesting enough, same name, but a little different spelling. Showed me the DVD of The Elegant Universe based on his book, The Elegant Universe. That's Brian Greene's book, The Elegant Universe. And he also frequently pals around with Neil deGrasse Tyson. And so I guess, now that I think about it, Brian Greene was the first science communicator that I ever really paid much attention to, interestingly enough. I don't know, string theory was a big thing. But let me get back to this. I'm deviating from this, but that's okay because I need to fill 30 minutes for a specific purpose for a project that I'm doing. So this reading, it's okay if I luxuriate around the article. But okay, so while everyone knows that a good night's sleep restores energy, a new Cornell University study finds it resets another vital function, memory. Again, I had already known about this. This is saying new, but let's see. Because 2017, that's 7 years ago. So what are they talking about? New, right? With Matthew Walker's book being 2017. All right, so continuing. Learning or experiencing new things activates neurons in the hippocampus, a region of the brain vital for memory. Later, while we sleep, those same neurons repeat the same pattern of activity, which is how the brain consolidates those memories that are then stored in a large area called the cortex. Okay. I want to take a moment again to address something here. So, this is something that I know, right? So this is actually in the book Why We Sleep, but something curious happened, and this is me teeter-tottering on the physics and metaphysics and just the statistics of coincidences and things like that I just find fascinating. So I used to work security at this place for a year, and there was a woman who used to come in there all the time, and she was very nice. I used to talk to her all the time and say hi. And then after I left there, her and a whole bunch of other people that used to frequent the place and some people that worked there friended me on Facebook. And so, for some reason I have no idea why they did, but a whole bunch of them did. And it's fine. I don't mind. I don't care. I really only publish things in there and very rarely look at a lot of stuff. Um, but one thing that stuck out about this person was that they had started talking about they, took a hiatus from drinking for a little while and started going to the gym and working out more and all that. And I thought to myself, hey, I would like to maybe interview that person for a podcast and find out, why they decided to start drinking and going to the gym, because they started looking like they were, like she was getting really fit. And it's a big part of my life too. So I said, hey, I'll interview that person. So then the next time I went to sleep, as I was waking up, I had a dream about her. And so I thought that was interesting, but I knew from the research that I had read and from my own personal experiences throughout life that that's what happens, which is what this last paragraph just said here, right? It said learning or experiencing new things activates neurons in the hippocampus, a region of the brain vital for memory. Later, while we sleep, those same neurons repeat the same pattern of activity, which is how the brain consolidates those memories that are then stored in a large area called the cortex. So basically, because I had decided that I wanted to interview her for my podcast, it was like my brain was saying, okay, remember this person, remember this is important to you, that you wanted to do this because there was some important information related to the things that you specialize in. So it repeated the same patterns of activity, of thinking about that person, seeing her face and all that stuff like that. And it was also like in a fitness type of environment in the dreamscape and all that other stuff like that. So it was definitely consolidating that memory. But the metaphysical part is that I never see this person anywhere at all at any time. But I just so happened to be driving down the beach on Fifth Street, and she was walking down the street, and I said, "Hey, hi, da da da, remember me? Oh yeah, yeah, da da da." And we talked for a little bit, and then I was driving around again, and I came around and she was walking down the street again. I said, "Hey, do you need a ride somewhere?" And so she jumped in my car, gave her a ride. We had a talk. We talked about the fitness thing and all the other stuff like that. And then I dropped her off to where she wanted to go, which was not too far away. And then that was it. But I just thought that was kind of interesting, right? Like, um, that's that kind of coincidence. To me, I mean, that's a weird coincidence that I never really thought about anything about this person before, right? And then I say, oh, I've been seeing this over and over again, that this person's on this fitness journey. And she's And so then I decide I want to interview her for a podcast. Then I have a dream about her. And then that same exact day. So these are all in sequence, right? I see the post on Facebook, decide I want to do a podcast with this person. Have a dream the very next time I go to sleep about this person. And then that very night in the same day of the dream that I had, see this person walking down the street and then have a conversation with them. I don't know. What are the implications of that? What are the odds? I don't know. I'm just thinking about it. And that last sentence just reminded me of that, because there's a scientific basis for why you think of and dream of certain things to consolidate memory, which this article is about, but also just that was weird. To me, it's strange. I don't know. Maybe I need to keep studying more science and figure out that it's not that weird. Maybe I need to take a course in statistical analysis. We'll see. All right, let me continue. Neurosciencenews.com. Okay, but how is it that we can keep learning new things for a lifetime without using up all of our neurons? A new study, a hippocampal circuit mechanism to balance memory reactivation during sleep, under embargo until 2 p.m. Eastern Time on August 15th in Science. What? Under embargo? The article's under embargo? So a new study, quote, a hippocampal circuit mechanism to balance memory reactivation during sleep, end quote, under embargo until 2 p.m. Eastern Time on August 15th in Science, finds at certain times during sleep, certain parts of the hippocampus go silent, allowing those neurons to reset. The mechanism could allow the brain to reuse the same resources, the same neurons, for new learning the next day, said Azahara Oliva, the assistant professor of neurobiology and behavior and the paper's corresponding author. The hippocampus is divided into, let me read that again actually. This mechanism could allow the brain to reuse the same resources, the same neurons, for new learning the next day, said Azahara Oliva, the assistant professor of neurobiology and behavior and the paper's corresponding author. Continuing, the hippocampus is divided into three regions, CA1, CA2, and CA3. CA1 and CA3 are involved in encoding memories related to time and space and are well studied. Less is known about CA2, which the current study found generates this silencing and resetting of the hippocampus during sleep. Okay, so all right. CA1 and CA3 are involved in encoding memories related to time and space and are well studied. Less is known about CA2, which the current study found generates this silencing and resetting of the hippocampus during sleep. Okay, interesting. So CA1 and CA3 are involved in encoding memories related to time and space. All right, I have a lot to say about time and space. Ruler and clock. That's time and space right there. Measuring things, ruler and clock, miles per hour, kilometers per hour. That's that's space time right there. All right, the continuing the what the heck? Continuing. Why neuroscience news? One thing I don't like, just like many other websites, is the amount of annoying pop-ups and the way that this thing jumbles around the text I'm trying to read on the page. Like you touch something and it just goes all spaz. Okay, continuing. So the researchers implanted electrodes in the hippocampi of mice, which allowed them to record neuronal activity during learning and sleep. I don't know why I'm always disappointed when I hear that they're doing it on mice. For some reason, I'm thinking like, yeah, they're sticking electrodes in people, in humans' brains, and but the reason why they use the mice is because there's so many structures and genetics and things that are similar to humans. So there's a lot of analogous regions of the brain and analogous results that they get. So, but I don't know. Every time I read about they're doing it with mice, I'm like, darn. Like I'm always for some reason I'm expecting us to be the test subjects, but um, you know, that's just me. Okay, the researchers continuing. The researchers implanted electrodes in the hippocampi of mice, which allowed them to record neuronal activity during learning and sleep. In this way, they could observe that during sleep, the neurons in the CA1 and CA3 areas reproduce the same neuronal patterns that developed during learning in the day. But the researchers wanted to know how the brain continues learning each day without overloading or running out of neurons. The way they're talking about this is really making this also analogous or analogous to computer hardware. Like it's like talking about running out of neurons to store stuff on. That's crazy. All right, let's continue. We realize there are other hippocampy states that happen during sleep where everything is silenced, Oliva said. The CA1 and CA3 regions that had been very active were suddenly quiet. It's a reset of memory, and this state is generated by the middle region, CA2. Cells, called pyramidal neurons, are thought to be the active neurons that matter for functional purposes, such as learning. So cells called pyramidal neurons are thought to be the active neurons that matter for functional purposes, such as learning. Another type of cell, called interneurons, has different subtypes. Why is pyramidal reminding me of something? I do need to get some sleep, but so my memory is definitely not working properly right at this moment. But okay, so interneurons has different subtypes. Continuing, the researchers discovered that the brain has parallel circuits regulated by these two types of interneurons, one that regulates memory, the other that allows for resetting memories. The researchers believe they now have the tools to boost memory by tinkering with the mechanisms of memory consolidation, which could be applied when memory function falters, such as in Alzheimer's disease. All right, so cool. Now we're getting into the bringing the science fiction to life here. The whole we're going to start getting to the eternal sunshine of the spotless mind stuff here. So the researchers believe they now have the tools to boost memory by tinkering with the mechanisms of memory consolidation, which could be applied when memory function falters, such as in Alzheimer's disease. Importantly, hey, Clarity Concierge, hello, welcome. How you doing? Good to see you here in the room, or passing through, whatever's going on there. Importantly, they also have evidence for exploring ways to erase, there it goes, eternal sunshine of the spotless mind. Importantly, they also have evidence for exploring ways to erase negative or traumatic memories, which may then help treat conditions such as post-traumatic stress disorder. And again, I've read this research, I read this last year. I've known about this from lots of stuff like that. So, well, Clarity Conscious, yes, I see you. You missed the beginning. Yeah, you're not missing much. I've been stopping a lot and talking because dual. I have multi purposes for making this recording. Besides catching up with World Reading Club, but it has to fit the time for a video, and it's just something. But I've been luxuriating on reading this, so I'm still at the very beginning. You're just getting into the juicy stuff here. So continuing, importantly, they also have evidence for exploring ways to erase negative or traumatic memories, which may then help treat conditions such as post-traumatic stress disorder. And again, I've already read about that. I knew that they were doing it. They were knocking out memories, like getting rid of them completely. And I forget the mechanism. I know I had it written down, and I also did a podcast about it before because it was pretty incredible. But I'll find it later because it's something else that I want to touch on. Oh, look, wow, we're already at the end of this article. Okay, so the result, continuing. So the result helps explain why all animals require sleep, not only to fix memories, but also to reset the brain and keep it working during waking hours. We show that memory is a dynamic process, Oliva said. And they have a note on funding. It says, funding. The study was funded by the National Institutes of Health, a Sloan Fellowship, a Whitehall Research Grant, a Klingenstein-Simons Fellowship, and a New Frontiers Grant. So about this sleep learning and research, I hope there's an abstract. I'm going to read the more science intense abstract from the actual paper that's here. So the author was Becca Bowyer, source Cornell University. There's an image in here which I might be able to put up soon when I post this. That's credited to NeuroScience News. And the original research is under closed access, and it's called a hippocampal circuit mechanism to balance memory reactivation during sleep by Azahara Oliva and others in Science. All right. So that is, this is basically what this was about. So I think I understand that pretty well. So first of all, trust me when I'm saying this. You can't see me, but I'm not looking at the paper, but it was very short, or the article is very short. And what I recall is that in the hippocampus, there are regions CA1, CA2, and CA3. And CA1 and CA3 are for encoding memory in space and time. And then CA2 silences the CA1 and CA3, basically resetting them to get them so they can be reused, repurposed again in the future so that they don't run out of neurons, is what they said, something like that. So, and then also This can be used to enhance memories, like within Alzheimer's patients when memory starts to fail, and also to erase traumatic memories, as in post-traumatic stress disorder. So that's the gist of it, right there. So um, I relearned something that really puts some stuff into perspective. Okay, let's see. I'm going to read this Clarity Concierge, if you don't mind, what you wrote me. Let me see what it says. Okay, so you sent me this message. It says research aimed at promoting more effective treatment of PTSD has focused on memory erasure, disrupting reconsolidation, yes, disrupting reconsolidation and or enhancing extinction retention through pharmacological manipulations. Now, that is not the research that I had been looking at. It has nothing to do with pharmacological, but this is interesting that you sent me here. Propranolol. Oh, I'm not a fan of that stuff, but I know about it. It's been around for a while. Propranolol, a beta adrenoceptor antagonist, has received considerable attention for its therapeutic potential in PTSD, although its impact on patients is not always effective. In this review, we briefly examined the consequences of beta noradrenergic manipulations on both reconsolidation and extinction learning in rodents and in humans. It's not that though. Propranolol, you should look that stuff up. That's some pretty nasty stuff. I don't know where you found that research, but propranolol, I mean, but that's my opinion. I'm not a medical doctor. I just don't, there's certain things I don't like specifically when it comes to, psychopharmacology, which is something that, I've done a lot of research on, but what I've been finding out, they have different, this is, National Institutes of Health.gov. Yeah, I'll look at that later. Thank you for sharing that with me. I'm going to take a look into that. Let's see. Clarity Concierge is here. And then maybe I'll look at this abstract here. All
Hey,
right.
good morning. I think it's morning.
Hello. Yeah,
It's
it is
supposed to
morning.
be. Yeah. Yeah. I sleep is a constant challenge. No, I was just really. I don't know. It feels like messing with you. I can't even put words together. It's kind of like time travel. This idea that okay, we're just going to erase the bad memories and everything will be fine. I don't know.
Well,
I'm somebody that like
the thing
if
is,
something like that happens, it shakes you.
yeah, the thing about it, the way I see it is, it's twofold. Like I can, first of all, my concern is I've I've had a lot of experiences that I would consider to be traumatic, but that's subjective. I mean, and it's subjective for everybody. Everybody could say they've had traumatic experiences. Somebody might look at it and say, "Oh, that's nothing," but it's something to the person who's experienced it, right? So
Yes.
it's like, you know, a person who's used to lifting weight, like 100 pounds, it's no big deal. But somebody else who goes over and tries to pick that up might strain themselves trying to pick it up, right? It's different for everybody who are different parts in their life. So it's like, people handle things differently. So some people who have certain traumas, I can see how that might be useful for them because it might be disrupting their life. You know what I mean? It might be
Yeah.
so traumatic that it's interfering with their everyday normal functioning and their general quality of life. So in that way, I could see that. Um, on the other hand, as a person who's had a lot of stuff that I've experienced, I'm just like, well, I'll deal with it. I mean, I have a lot of stuff going on that sometimes really brings me into some really dark places, but um, I'm, you know, I'm like, you know what? I guess I'll figure it out. Or if it gets too much, maybe if I feel like I need to get help for something, but at this time, I mean, because my mind does really get in some really dark places. Like but then I realize sometimes it's because, oh wait, I need to eat.
Yeah. I mean, and to me, pain is a messenger. for the body. Granted, now I'm not somebody that's experiencing this level of pain that somebody would consider erasing it. But for me, also, it's if it's a constant trauma, then if you don't get the tools to deal with it, as you say, then what are you going to do? Just continually erase the memory instead of maybe getting to the root cause? You know, maybe it's good for isolated incidents, but that are disruptive. But I just don't know if that
Well,
helps a
you see,
person in the long run if they deal with that again.
Stacey, that's why it's a slippery slope to me, because in the way that society is today and the way that people deal with certain things is that there are people who will look at this as just an easy way. They're like, I can't deal with this. And it's like, and it's really objectively not that big of a deal, right?
Hmm.
Objectively, it's objectively not that big of a deal. Like it's like if I don't even really I can't really give any examples, but it's something really trivial. But again, different things are different to different people. But I mean, certain things that are just not consequential, like maybe like you missed a sale, right? Somebody would say, it's a disaster. I missed the sale at Macy's or whatever. And it's like, that is not a disaster. You can't use that word with missing a sale, but people do that, right? There are people who
Yeah.
get really bent out of shape about missing a sale or something like that. And it's not like they don't have enough money for it. It's just that there's something, but again, human behavior and emotions and psychology is complicated.
Yeah.
um, I'm just saying that this could get into a slippery slope with with how this is implemented. But yeah, I mean, but I can see how under certain circumstances, certain things that happen to people that you know I know about, I
Hmm.
could see how somebody would want that erased. But I
I
don't
have,
know.
I have a question since I think if I remember right, you were a hypnotherapist as well.
Yes.
And I don't know if this is, the fiction about hypnotherapy, but I've heard that there's allegedly techniques where, let's say somebody wanted to stop eating sweets. You could plant a suggestion that anything sweet tastes bitter or something like that. Would it be along those lines? Like, I am terrified of roaches. So if we planted this idea that I can't even recognize them, then I technically wouldn't be afraid of them. Is that along a similar lines? Is that even possible in the
Well,
world of hypnotherapy?
so let me address those one by one. Let me unpack this a little bit here. So the first thing you mentioned was somebody who likes sweet. We could hypnotize them to make it taste bitter, right?
Yeah, I don't know if that's true or if that can be done. That's
Well, it can be. It just has to be, a person has to be very cooperative, and we have to get them into a hyper suggestible state. That's a type of what's known as aversion therapy. It's called
Mhm.
aversion, but it's not something that I recommend or practice or do. Although it's easy to implement things that are similar to it, but that's called aversion therapy, if you ever wanted to look that up. The other thing you
Okay.
mentioned was if you're terrified of roaches, which might be a fear or a phobia. It could be a fear because maybe somebody grew up in a house that was roach infested, and so they have a legitimate memories connected to roach infestation and it being disgusting and smelly, and them crawling on them. And so that's a fear because they have a memory of it. A phobia would be a person being afraid of roaches, but they have no idea why. That there's no direct connections. They didn't have a roach infestation. They never had a roach crawl on their face or on their ear or something like that. They just are afraid of them. That's a phobia. That's the difference between a fear and a phobia. And um, what I actually have done before with an arachnophobia is I did a very intense, what's called systematic desensitization, to help the person be desensitized from the fear of the spider by systematically introducing them to first black and white pencil drawings of a spider, and then having them imagine it in a different room far away, and then increasing its realism um, until the person, and then at the same time having the person practice relaxation techniques in in association with the images of the spider that they were seeing. So those two things are different. One's called an aversion, in which you cause the person to have um, an aversion or a disdain or a dislike for something that they normally do like. Or again, I don't
Hmm.
recommend stuff like that. And the other one is called systematic desensitization, which also needs to be careful with. But yes, those are things that you can do in hypnosis. Now, the third thing is these are completely different from what these neuroscientists are talking about. Um, they are there are these different techniques. I don't know why I don't remember it now. I actually wrote it down in notebooks, but it has to do with um, the recalling of the memories and basically mapping the areas of the brain that are bringing the memories up, and then interfering with, sort of like in what you wrote to me about the propranolol, where they disrupt the encoding of it, basically.
Hmm.
So, but that's basically the mechanism of it. But we don't do that with hypnosis.
Okay.
Although you can cause some kind of temporary hypnoamnesia and certain type of amnesic events. I mean, even a mentalist, a guy named Darren Brown, has been able to induce hypnoamnesia in people, and has done some pretty hardcore experimentations with psychologists and psychiatrists that he's filmed and put on his YouTube channel, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, this is a little bit different. But yeah,
Okay. No, I was just trying to make a connection, like, because you as a hypnotherapist don't suggest, you said, and I hope I'm not taking this out of context, that you don't recommend aversion therapy, for example. So
me
that's why I'm
personally,
like,
no, I don't.
yeah, you personally. So to me, erasing a memory or substituting a memory, I think that's another possibility. It's really tinkering with what makes us who we are. That's
Well,
that's my,
here's
to
what's
me.
interesting that you just said though. You said erasing or replacing. Now, I also wouldn't suggest erasing, but what I would recommend, the thing that I think is best, is one of the best middle grounds to do, is something that is could be called reframing,
Hmm.
where and it's related to what I was talking about, the systematic desensitization, where you're basically helping the person to reframe and reassociate how they feel about an experience. So it's not erasing it, it is changing the way they experience it. Sometimes that's
Yeah.
okay, sometimes it's not. It just depends on what it is. If it gets into abnormal psychology, stuff like that, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, so there's certain things that I wouldn't do without working with a doctor and without a medical or psychiatric referral. But there, like for example, um, the same thing in the systematic desensitization works with this kind of reframing, where you ask the person to talk about the situation, and when they start to get to a point where it starts to upset them, you stop them, and then you have them practice relaxation and calming techniques like breathing exercises and stretching, or anything that helps them to change the way that they feel, from feeling in a negative way to um to us to something, to feeling better in general. So the first thing to do is not to actually. Oh, I got a message. Let's see. Zita said, "Hello and thank you. New to the app, still figuring things out. Thank you for talking about the research. Definitely look it up." Oh, yes. You have a nice day, Zita. Thanks for sending me the message. Um. So what you do is you don't first start to try to make the person feel good about the bad memory, right?
Hmm.
It's what's done is you stop them from thinking about the thing. So if they're like, I have a fear or a phobia of roaches. They crawled on me when I was a kid, and they start getting upset, and you start seeing them visibly get upset, or they start twitching, or they start scratching their arm. You say, okay, um, let's stop there for a moment, and let's take a few deep breaths, and let's talk about this thing. And it could be something that we decided that we were going to go to, like maybe a happy time in their life, like a Christmas event, or somebody that they're fond of, or an activity that they like, or something that they can redirect their attention to, right?
Mhm.
And then we start talking about that. And then once we get them comfortable talking about that, and then it starts associating with other things that they're comfortable with, then we practice more relaxation techniques and get them into a calm state of mind. And then it's that repeated process of having them bring up the trauma or the disturbing memory or experience. And then when it starts to build up to them, you stop them, you remove them from it, and go on to a different subject and completely to something different. And then practice breathing techniques and relaxation and calming and confidence building and all that. And then you return to the subject again. And then each time you keep a little bit more of the thing that's bothering them in their mind, a little bit of it, not much, but a little bit more each time connect that with the calm, relaxed, confident feelings of it until until eventually they're both overlapping, until they can then think about the traumatic memory or experience and have the calm, relaxed, and confident feelings at the same time. But you slowly merge those two. First, they're two separate things. That memory that disturbs them and bothers them and brings up all those same feelings that they had before, but you stop it, and then you think about and talk about something completely different, and you incubate and bring those and grow those things, and then you slowly start to merge those things together. You start to let them diffuse into each other.
Yeah, I like that. And to me, that's more empowering than just let's just extract these things. But I mean, that's just me. But it's really fascinating research. So thank you so much for bringing it to the forefront.
Well, that's how I like to practice it. So I'm going to see. I think I did enough time on this. I'm going to read this abstract and then close this out here. But I'm glad to hear from you, and let's be in touch. I'll send you a message later or something like that. Once I
Okay.
after I get some sleep.
Yeah, I don't know how to leave without leaving the entire talk. So I don't know if you can kick me off because I'm happy
All
to
right.
drop it to the listening pool.
Yeah, yeah, I can. There you go. All right. Talk to you later.
Okay.
All right. So let's see All right. So to finish the rest here. This is the abstract from this article called "Sleep Resets Neurons to Keep Learning Possible." And I'm going to close this out. So the abstract. It's called a hippocampal circuit mechanism to balance memory reactivation during sleep. Memory consolidation involves the synchronous reactivation of hippocampal cells active during recent experience in sleep sharp wave ripples, SWRs. How this increase in firing rates and synchrony after learning is counterbalanced to preserve network stability is not understood. But but there it goes though. It says but it is. So basically the increase in firing rates and synchrony after learning preserves network stability. That's what it does, but they say they don't understand it. But continuing, we discovered a network event generated by an intra-hippocampal circuit formed by a subset of CA2 pyramidal cells to cholecytokinin expressing, that's CCK, plus basket cells. So that's not cyto, cholecystokinin expressing CCK plus basket cells, which fire a barrage of action potentials during non-rapid eye movement sleep. CA1 neurons and assemblies that increased their activity during learning were reactivating during these SWRs, which are those sharp wave ripples, but inhibited during BARRs. That's the barrage of action potentials. The initial increase in reactivation during the sharp wave ripples returned to baseline through sleep. This trend was abolished by silencing CCK plus basket cells during BARRs, resulting in higher synchrony of CA1 assemblies and impaired memory consolidation. This is one of those things you have to read because they have these several different abbreviations, but once you look at them and you get them defined by looking at it, you will understand what they're saying. But that's the abstract. That's why that wasn't the main article. This is from the scientific paper in the journal Science. So that's it. That's all I'm going to read here. You can find this on neurosciencenews.com. It's titled Sleep Resets Neurons to Keep Learning Possible. And that was published on August 16th, 2024, under the categories Featured and Neuroscience on, again, neurosciencenews.com. I am Hakeem Ali Bokus Alexander, reading this neuroscience news for World Reading Club, which you can find on worldreadingclub.com as well as on Spreaker podcasts. And I am the Hitman, Hitman, because I never know when I'm going to be here in the morning, afternoon, or night, and that's what Hitman is an acronym for. Hitman, Hakeem in the morning, afternoon, and night. Until next time, stay well and get some sleep.